So now we come to this part of the graduation ceremony, which gives us the opportunity to hear from a distinguished member of our alumni community. And we are delighted today that the address will be delivered by Ms. Rebecca Brideson. Ms. Brideson graduated Bachelor of Arts in Design at Monash University some time ago and has had over 30 years' experience in advertising and marketing, and was at the time the youngest female appointed as a creative director in Australia. She is an author, a consultant, a public speaker, and importantly, a mother to 2 teenage children. She is now the founder and executive creative director of Venus Comms. Described as a trailblazer and an innovator, Ms. Brideson has been recognised for her work as a strategist, a champion of change, and for female leadership. She has been awarded major creative awards for her work on advertising campaigns on iconic brands that we would all know: Holden, Virgin, Cadbury, and the AFLW. Currently, she serves on the board at Shelford Girls Grammar and is a founding member of the Reference Group for Women's Health Victoria. She is committed to educating industries about women's incredible economic influence and their role as leaders in business, politics, and creating change across areas of wider social inequities. I have great pleasure now in inviting Ms. Rebecca Brideson to deliver for each of us the graduation address.
I acknowledge and pay respect to the traditional owners and elders, past, present and emerging, of the lands and waters on which Monash University operates, the people of the Kulin Nation. At Monash Art, Design and Architecture, we acknowledge Aboriginal connection to material and creative practice on these lands for more than 60,000 years and celebrate their enduring presence and knowledge. Deputy Chancellor, the Honourable Peter Young, AMQC. Pro-Vice Chancellor, Professor Chris Ryan. Members of the faculty, guests and loved ones, and especially the new graduates. Sir Winston Churchill famously apologised, "Forgive my long letter, I didn't have time to write a shorter one." Fortunately, I have had the luxury of the last 8 weeks to write my very own short letter to the new graduates. It would be an understatement to call this opportunity a privilege. I can say, hand on heart, I would never have expected things to turn out this way. I was far from the most outstanding student. On occasion, my head of faculty would see me walking the halls and scratch his head saying, "Beck, you're still here." And let me assure you, he was not referring to the fact I was studying late that night. It's curious the power of words and their ability to change lives in an instant. Words like, "It's a boy," "We couldn't save her," "I'm leaving you," or "Congratulations, you got the job." Hence, when I read the words in the email asking me to speak to you, my perception of myself as a Monash graduate was reshaped in an instant, and suddenly what seemed to be my long and hard road to success now appeared to have taken me but moments to accomplish. What has driven me has come from 2 sources. One source is my positive source, it's passion to create, passion to communicate, passion to make change, and yes, passion to succeed. My second source, my negative drive, if you will, is frustration, anger, rage even, that the road to become a successful businesswoman should seem so much longer and harder than the path to become a successful businessman. Together, the passion and the frustration seem to constitute my creative muse and my view of the world in which I work and which I have sought my triumphs. Earlier you heard my academic achievements and career highlights, but after graduating from Monash, I did go on to gather a few other notable learnings. There's my BSF, which is a bachelor's degree in spectacular failure. The bachelor's demands the close study of humility, and it's essential if you are to see each and every failure, not as a roadblock, but as a useful stepping stone on the road to success. I think everyone in here will be surprised to learn that I have a PhD in profanity, or if you prefer, it's an honorary doctorate in coarse language. It's a skill set built out of necessity to deal with the wankers in advertising. And probably less of a surprise is my other degree in sarcasm. Thankfully, I attended just the one university, Monash. But during my primary and secondary years, I actually went to 9 different schools. So I grew up constantly feeling like the new kid and an outsider. But as so often is the case, the new kid cloud gave me the silver lining. It turned out to be the perfect training ground for my ambition to survive life as a woman in advertising. I was an outlier in an industry that was dominated by people that cheerily we know these days as madmen. These madmen I joined straight out of uni in the 90s devalued women in the workplace as much, if not more, than the vacuous kinds of women we saw portrayed in their advertising. Females were often objectified, belittled, and diminished. So you may be wondering why I stayed so long in the industry, when I realised right from the start that it was sexist and chauvinist. Well, as we painfully know, it is not just the way women are portrayed in advertising that's the issue, because advertising merely holds the mirror up to society. Injustices that women and other marginal groups suffer are everywhere, and are found across many professions, medicine and law, in Hollywood and in Silicon Valley, and yes, right here in the Federal Parliament of Australia. In my career, I chose not to let the actions of a few bad men, nor the culture of the madmen, define who I was or where I was going. I used both my positive passion and my rage to propel me forward. And I'm proud to say I've done all right. I've climbed well above base camp more than a few times. I've opened my own ad agency, and you'll soon find out why. I'm the first Australian woman to give a keynote at the Cannes Lions in France. I've challenged the way we stereotype genders, and I've become a published author, sharing my views on the valuable emerging economy. But no doubt one of my biggest achievements is being a mother to my 2 girls, and I strive to make positive impact on their behalf. And it's for them and for every daughter and son and child that I will continue to challenge the status quo. I'm playing the long game, and to borrow from the ad world's abundance of cliches, I'm using the rain to make rainbows, and I'm turning lemons into lemonade. So my first of 3 learning points for you graduates is that what feels like adversity can actually drive your determination to succeed. When you find yourself navigating tough environments, and you inevitably will, your creative muscles will just get stronger. So up until now, you've heard the way passion has driven my ambition and success, but for a moment, I'm going to share the less fun bit, my frustration and rage, and where that took me. The day after I handed in my 3rd year final folio at Monash, I started work experience. It was down on an agency on St Kilda Road, which incidentally is known as Bullshit Boulevard because there are so many agencies headquartered there. A few weeks in, 2 senior guys in the creative department picked me up by my arms and legs, and they put me into an empty recycling bin, a wheelie bin. Yes, I struggled, but they were bigger than me, and they thought it was funny, so I just tried to laugh along, and I didn't want to seem like I couldn't take a joke. Using gaffer tape, they sealed the bin lid down and delivered me to a corner office of a company director who had just returned from a long and mostly liquid lunch. The director wheeled the bin into his office. He locked the door behind him. He closed the blinds and he sexually assaulted me. Now, as a bit of background, as a child I had experienced child sexual abuse and I'd learned the horror 3 Fs: flight, fright or freeze. And on this occasion, my body chose freeze. Shell-shocked, I found a female staff member and told her what had happened. Her eyes welled up with tears and she looked at me knowingly and she offered these words: "Never be alone in a room with the directors who work here, especially if they've been drinking." It was sage advice, but some days later, another director cornered me, this time in my tiny office, and so I left my unpaid Adlan job. And whilst you could say I'd gained experience, it was not the kind of experience that would advance my career. And inarguably, it's not the kind of experience that any male or female should be subjected to at work, nor in any other place for that matter. A couple of years later, at an agency in Sydney, another male boss, sober, tackled me to the floor of our open plan working space. My lovely, mostly male colleagues watched on speechless at what my boss did next. He grabbed a permanent marker and, still with me pinned to the ground, he proceeded to draw a penis across my forehead. So I guess the worst bit of this is I'm just sharing the palatable events today, because despite my developed hypervigilance for such predatory behaviour, I experienced all kinds of harassment at all levels of my career. That was until I started my own agency. And as a recipient of such unwanted attention, can you believe that I was asked to sign 2 non-disclosure agreements in a legal attempt to silence me? And although the silencing has been somewhat effective, though for how much longer, I'm not sure. You know what's really ironic? The rage I have felt has made me double down on my determination to make every part of the marketing industry a better, fairer, and more relevant profession for the sake of us all. So I'm sure that some of you graduates have already had your own kind of struggles and injustices. I hope not like mine, but I do know for a fact that for all of you living in Melbourne through a global pandemic, it has been tough. In spite of this, you are all proof that even if you do get locked down, you get up again. The last 2 years of your formal education has been a zombie apocalypse, scored to a soundtrack of You're on Mute and a steady stream of Uber Eats notifications. The loss and suspensions of your everyday freedoms has given you a unique experience, but I assure you, your internal software has been upgraded with a better operating system of skills. Whatever the next big challenges are, you will be even more prepared than any previous generation to navigate them. And in the great reset of the ashes, you graduates will be the phoenix that emerges, or the parrot that plummets, but that's up to you. Some of the best future leaders are sitting right here and maybe just in your seat. So my second learning point, you have already overcome a struggle of global proportion, and each and every one of you has emerged from it more capable. So run toward the fire. At the beginning of my short letter, I spoke of the power of words to reshape perceptions. And now I invite you to think about some other words. I will not be lectured by this man. Change the date. I can't breathe. I had no idea that a creative career in communications would send me on the front line of what is seemingly an invisible war against women and down this path of advocacy and equality. And sometimes I think, imagine if I had left and walked away. Given up, not stayed, not started my own agency, and not learned how to find my power and use my creative muscles and talent to build better. And so my final learning point 3 is, never let anyone take your voice. We need you creative and clever men, and we need you creative and clever women. We need you to use your influence to assist with the ascension of humanity. I would not have had nearly the level of success if it were not for my parents and my dear close friends. I'm lucky to have ongoing input from them and from my mentors, people who know exactly how to land the guidance when I need to hear it. And here with me today, my beautiful partner Paul. Thank you. I'm so lucky I get to love you. In this hall, I see hundreds of your proud parents, friends, grandparents and partners, as well as all of the Monash staff. Chances are you couldn't have done it without their sacrifices and support. In a moment when you're outside the Robert Blackwood Hall hugging, you'll probably have some important words to share as well. Don't hold back. And to close out this letter, I leave you with this. It may be passion, it may be rage, and it most certainly will be both that's going to drive your career forward. Do not be afraid of what life gives you. Use it to spill your ambition everywhere and seize every opportunity with a brave and emboldened heart. You've reached a remarkable milestone today. Enjoy it, bathe in it, celebrate this moment because you've earned it. Congratulations to you all.
So may I first, on behalf of all graduates and others in the auditorium, thank Beck for that insightful and carefully thought through graduation address. No doubt in the 8 weeks since the email invitation had arrived, Beck gave great thought and included so much of a personal message and a personal history for the graduates, and I could just see that their attention was focused on the every word and they were listening carefully and hopefully taking in lessons and know how they will behave and conduct themselves and experience their work life. Thank you, Beck, for the message today. It was so personal and so empowering.